You found us. What about this idea?
Gotta listen to this show. Why?
Because it's about the hearts and minds of entrepreneurs.
Oh, nailed it.
I didn't even look at the wall.
Nailed it.
I didn't even look at the
All
wall.
right, listen, honestly, this is a show. It's different than other shows about entrepreneurship.
It's real. It's real. Real stories.
Is it?
We tend to talk very real.
I love
And
it.
so do our guests. So come have fun with us. Okay, we're going to open
back.
this
Yep.
2017 vintage Ramos Pinto. Sorry, all the Portuguese people that I taught. Okay,
Is that not the way you're supposed to
look,
say it?
I got caught on it. So how do you think it opens?
Maybe this
Here.
is at the bottom, I think. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh my God, I would have been shaking that thing the wrong
It
way.
was like, in the end, so easy.
So,
Look at it.
Tell
us about
yeah,
this
so
while I open
I
it.
was just in Porto, Portugal, which was phenomenal, and didn't get to spend nearly enough time there. It's a beautiful, beautiful city.
Although you
and,
did get to spend one more day, right?
In Lisbon.
Oh, Lisbon,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm kind of a wine guy, but I don't know a whole lot about port and Portuguese wines, and so it was really kind of a fascinating experience to be there. And one of the things I didn't realize was that there's really sort of two different types of port. What I think most of us experience here in the United States is the tawny port.
Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yeah.
And that is one specific style of making it, and really tawny is once it goes in the bottle, it is what it is. Then there is the ruby port, which is more like traditional wine. It's still fortified, so they start the fermentation process, and about halfway through it, they dump in neutral grape spirit, neutral wine spirits. To interrupt the fermentation process, and so then you get all the residual sugars, and so that's why it's so sweet.
Okay.
So tawny is very, very, very sweet and very kind of thick dessert winey kind of thing. The ruby port is a little bit closer to regular wine, but the other thing that I learned and was so fascinated with is that most port does not have a vintage. Only the most exceptional years will have a vintage, and that's
Really?
That's only going to be it's only going to be
So they don't bother with the vintage for some reason?
not with port. So for regular wine that's coming out of the same region, it's all going to have a vintage. But for port itself and the way that port is made, only the very best years will have a vintage. The rest of them are going to be blended multiple years together.
Okay.
And so 2017.
How's it going over there?
Well, first of all,
Yeah, no, it's a great opener.
but I'm almost there.
You're getting
Keep
it.
talking.
On the way.
Yeah.
So 2017 was one of the best years for the harvest in
Okay.
Portugal. So
So they took the time to
Right.
acknowledge that this was going to be a good one.
Yep,
This
exactly.
was, I'm thinking, 2017. You just
Ah,
going
the
back
old
to the
days.
old story, right? You were still in your business. You were rocking it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When this was made.
Right. When it was getting bottled, it was like our peak.
Yeah, you were thinking, not thinking, but you were putting it out into the universe somewhere that
Yeah.
it was going to get sold.
That's actually an interesting point because 2017 was our best year. Mathematics. Oh.
If
You guys, this is just embarrassing.
yeah, I mean,
I am going to blame it partially on this stupid cork. But now the magic happens. Now you
Right.
have to let me finish it.
Right.
I know you want.
no, it's okay.
I know
Yeah.
you want to help,
We're
but
both-
now
we're-
that I've screwed it up,
All right,
I have to
I'm gonna-
redeem myself.
I'm going to butcher my little story about port.
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You had a story.
Yeah, it comes from traveling to Upper Peninsula, Michigan with my kids. So we've got some land up there, and we go camp, and we often camp in late fall or early spring. So we've been snowed on many
Yeah.
times. And,
Yeah.
Yep. And
That's always fun. Although
You know, they
like
love
that
it, though.
stuff. You like that stuff.
I don't mind it, and the kids have done great with it each time.
Yep.
But so if you're looking for something to
that.
do when it's really cold out and everything's wet, Oh, look at that.
That's a beautiful color.
It is gorgeous in a dirty. Our cups aren't dirty,
They're-
but they look dirty.
They're super
Okay,
clean. You might visit the local maritime museum during the day, right? And then there was
If it's raining,
if it's raining and
Yeah.
snowing and cold, and you know you're not going to do any fishing or hiking around or anything. So
and then what happened?
Well,
is this
there
a
was
port story?
yeah.
Okay.
So there was a story about it. One of the ships, I want to say it was called the Sunrise or something like that. But anyway, there's tons of ships that have gone down out there, and this particular one, I don't remember the details, and it's not important. But the ship goes down, you know, and it's huge seas, bad times out around the Keweenaw Peninsula or whatever it is there, and as the ship breaks apart, one of the deckhands or whatever lashes himself to the first thing he can find, which is like a part of the mast and like the crow's nest or something, or maybe the cabin. But anyway, he finds this piece of stuff and he lashes himself to it because it's November and it's cold, and he's on this thing throughout the night, and he knows he's going to die, and a bottle of port comes clinking in, like blows in, and he grabs it, and he survives the night. He credits the port for keeping him alive through the night, and somehow or other gets blown to shore, crawls like 3 miles through the on his hands and knees because he's dying, and gets saved, and he's the sole survivor of that.
Wow.
But it's all because of port, according to him.
Wow.
Okay, in that honor of that, let's try it. It's a gorgeous color.
It is.
Oh, you're right. It's not even a little sweet.
Oh.
And actually, it's dangerous, right? Because it is fortified. What is
It is
the
fortified. It's probably 22%.
22%? It
like
does
that, yeah.
not taste like that.
Nope.
I like it.
Yeah. So
It's a little on the sweet side.
yeah, it's I mean it's sort of
It's port sweet, right?
it's good stuff.
It's really good. This is going to be dangerous to have around here. James, you're going to have to come back every day until it's
That's
gone.
fine. I'm happy to stick around.
Every
until-
day at 10 a.m. Show up for some port.
I got you.
Thank you.
I'll take care of that. So
Thank you.
yeah.
So where'd you grow up?
I grew up sort of divided. I grew up in Northfield, Minnesota.
Yeah.
My parents divorced when I was younger, and then we moved to Apple Valley, Minnesota after my mom got remarried. So
Okay.
split between the two, and
I've got friends and family from Northfield area.
yeah. I'm born and raised Minnesota boy. I went to college here. I went to Gustavus Adolphus College in St. Peter.
Yep.
And so yeah,
My
I've
son's looking at Gustavus.
been good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. I encourage him to go. But,
Yeah. You enjoyed it?
yeah, it was the right place for me, and I definitely subscribe to the liberal arts philosophy, where it's like one of the things that they allow is for you to explore whatever you're interested in without endangering the timing of your degree or the cost of your degree. So I was doing choir and theater, and I was doing political science and all this other kind of stuff.
All sorts of different things.
and it all just came together. Graduated in 4 years, and yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah,
So it was
my wife's a Gusty graduate.
Is that what they call them? Gusty?
Yeah.
Besties, yeah.
Oh, how cute.
She's not like, she doesn't identify with it that much. That was a long time ago, and
Yeah.
it's not really her. Like some of the Gusties are pretty serious Gusties.
Yeah. And I stay engaged. I make sure that I do annual giving towards scholarships at Gustavus, because that was the only way that I was able to go.
Yep.
I got accepted to Gustavus, and my mom said, "Nope, you're not going. That is way over budget.
Can't afford it."
Yeah, and so I was able to secure scholarships that were private, and so so now it's important to me to make sure that I continue to support that for other students.
I love that.
I take a mentor or a mentee. I'm a mentor. I take a mentee.
Yeah.
Most years, and just try to help a student there figure out what's next, and sort of impart whatever experience I have that's relevant. So I say engaged to a certain extent, but yeah, I'm not one of the ones that's like
You're not wearing
all
a-
dressed up at homecoming or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, there are those people,
Yeah.
Did you go to homecoming this year?
No.
Oh,
Yeah.
No.
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
In my alma mater either.
Yeah, what is it?
It's like the worst time to go. I don't know why. Like,
you go to
I'll
school?
go. I went to Stout,
Oh,
UW
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Stout.
That's right.
I was like one of those. I went to Hillmarie High School
Yeah.
in Maplewood, Minnesota, and I was. I know this is going to come to a surprise to you, but I was a huge rebel in high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I refused to take standardized tests.
Oh.
And for some reason, I said, well, if they're not going to let me in without taking a test, then I don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So there were very few colleges that would let me in.
Stout's like, we'll let anyone in.
They're like, let her in. Let her in.
Good old Stout.
Yeah. That's right. Okay, now what? We got to catch up with
so now
you.
we gotta catch
Okay.
up. So now I have gone into my sabbatical. We are in high COVID, and I was speaking to my mother. She lives in Las Vegas now, complaining about the fact that I couldn't get on my flight.
I was going to say, lamenting about not being in
Yeah.
Japan.
And I hear a little bit of crash, and she swears, and I was like, what's going on? And she said, well, I tripped on this stupid car. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? He said, well, your stepdad's stupid convertible. He never drives it, and I don't even know why it's here. I was like, don't speak ill of that car. She's beautiful. I love her. And she's like, what are you talking about? So she said, hold on. And it heard it, and it was kind of like, Peanuts, where you hear like,
Wah, wah, wah,
yeah.
wah.
yeah. And she comes back, she says, okay, all right, your dad doesn't drive it anymore, so if you want to come get it and you're going to use it, come get it. So
This all happened on a conversation on the phone. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
yeah.
What was it? What is it?
It's a 2001 BMW 330 Ci, convertible, black with a red interior. It's a beautiful, beautiful car.
Beautiful.
And he never let me drive it. And he made it very clear that he was never going to let me drive it. So,
And then in one swift conversation, it's yours.
yes. So during
how
high
things
COVID,
change.
My, how things change.
I go find some N95s, get on a plane, fly out to Las Vegas, pick up the convertible, and instead of kind of
Was it you and like 3 people?
no, it's just me solo by myself.
No, but on the flight.
Oh no, it was
During
full.
high COVID, was it full?
It was full because there were very few flights.
Oh, that's
It was
funny.
very full. It was kind of
I
frightening.
wondered what flying was
Yeah,
like during
yeah.
that time.
It was terrifying.
Yeah.
Because you thought everybody was trying to kill you. But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here I've got a new convertible, a new old convertible, and plenty of time and a little bit of money. And so instead of kind of going on an adventure around Asia, I went on an adventure around the United States. So I drove
That's fun.
convertible up to visit my cousin up in Washington State. Really, the only things that were open were national parks. So I was just popping in national park. I had an inflatable kayak that I carried in the trunk.
Yeah.
And so I would just go pop into whatever body of water was there, kind of paddle around, look at things, and I drove that convertible from Las Vegas to Washington State, down to Key West.
Where in Washington?
Up near Tacoma.
Yeah.
They live in one of the side cities there. But
Little suburb.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tacoma.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you go up around the Olympic Peninsula or anything like that?
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah.
fun.
Drove all over the place, everywhere I
Yeah.
could. And it was kind of crazy because the fires were all happening in California.
Oh.
So at a certain point, I started getting pushed east. So I remember I was in Walla Walla, Washington, again, going to visit vineyards and that kind of stuff, because a lot of those were still open. And I remember getting up in
Did
the
you go to
morning.
Dusted Valley?
No, I really just stayed in
No, Walla Walla was in Dusted Valley.
yeah, but I didn't really go out.
Oh.
Because what was open and what was not open was kind of sketchy, and but I remember getting
Those
up.
were strange days, weren't they?
Yeah,
All right.
and I remember getting up 9 in the morning or something, and looking up, and the smoke is so thick that I can look at the sun just
Yeah.
by bare eyes. It's so thick.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I got to go east. And so I started driving east, and then eventually went down to Key West, and a friend of mine was having a birthday party.
Wait a minute.
We're in Washington.
Yeah, I mean,
We're
you
hanging
didn't
out in
just go
Tacoma.
east.
And then eventually,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
you went way east.
Yeah, as far east as I could go. Yeah. So a friend of mine was having her birthday party down in Key West because there's no rules in Florida. So we did her 40th birthday down there, and
did that feel weird too?
yeah, just to have like a gathering of people.
Yeah.
Even though like everybody was fine and everybody had taken tests and all that kind of stuff. It was just a very
I'm
weird
still
time.
not sure I'm like fully comfortable being in crowds.
Yeah.
In an odd way.
Yeah.
Like something changed in me during that.
I don't care about crowds from a COVID point of view, but I'm afraid someone's going to shoot me because I'm a true crime sort of person.
And it's not that I'm concerned about COVID. It's just I've never liked crowds that much anyway. But then spending several
What do you
years
do
away
when
from
all
them.
your fans are around you and wanting to get a photo?
Mobbing me.
What do you do in those moments?
Oh, it's so uncomfortable. I have a real hard time with the fame.
So I find myself down in Key West, and I get bored, and like so I took a job as a deckhand at a sailing charter company, and
This sounds like describe for me if you would, and this is very personal, so it's totally. But no kids then, right?
Nope. Nope.
It's not really all that
just a
personal.
guess.
I mean,
Nope.
Just a guess. No spouse of any sort.
No.
That because to be able to do this
Right.
requires a certain amount of freedom.
You're right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
And I found myself in the place of total freedom. Right.
Yeah.
Like I had the time
with a convertible.
and at the time of money and
A little bit of
and
money,
the ride.
You could have written a
and
book.
no strings.
Yeah. So
Jeez Louise.
So that was great. And then when I was hanging out on the sailboats, and I really knew nothing. I had to really talk my way into getting hired by this place because I had no experience at all. But then I get a call from the company that bought mine, and they said, "Hey, we're restructuring our leadership. We're looking for a director of corporate development. Are you interested?" And I was like, actually, yes, this is, M&A is a space that I'm very interested in. Yes, I will leave paradise and drive back up to come take on this job. And so then I flipped from selling my company to trying to buy companies and having every day having conversations with business owners trying to figure out if they're ready to sell their company, if they're interested in selling their company, what would it look like? And the very interesting thing was, I talked to hundreds of owners, but I only did analysis, like financial analysis, on a couple dozen.
Okay.
And we only made offers to 8, 9.
Do the owners the company you're working for, do the owners of the smaller companies know that someone might call them up and ask them? Like, is it?
I think particularly in the IT space, there's so much activity happening right now that I can't imagine there's many owners out there that haven't gotten called by brokers and private equity and various
Okay, looking to maybe acquire.
Looking to acquire. But the thing that was very apparent to me with most of these owners was they were nowhere near ready to sell their company.
Right.
Even if they wanted to sell their company, they were nowhere near ready, and that they had wild misconceptions about what their company was.
God, that sounds like where I would be.
Yeah.
If I.
I remember.
I mean, it does though. If someone called, not that they're calling right now, but
Well, you're talking to the right person then.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, since it's a show about entrepreneurship, what is it they don't know? Like, so because we talk about this stuff all the time. People start a company because they're good at something or whatever, and then they eventually become the manager of it, and they realize they're not doing the thing that they're actually good at anymore.
Right.
They're doing something else.
Right.
And there's so many things that go into it, but ultimately, and feel free to correct me, the larger company is looking at it saying, we're buying your accounts.
Right.
We do the same thing you do, but you have accounts that we want.
Right.
We're not actually buying the way you run your company because
not at
we're
all.
just we're gonna boot you and all the rest of that shit out of there
gonna
and
rebuild
buy
it.
your
Right.
accounts.
Even if they tell you, oh yes, you're doing things perfectly. We're going to keep everything the way it is. We're going to.
We love
all
all
the
of it.
employees. We love everything about it. You have the best culture in the world. Like we love everything about your company. That's not true. They're going to change everything. As soon as they get the keys, all that speech goes away. And there's very few acquisitions where that culture is really maintained. I mean, if you have an individual investor coming in and buying a company and wanting to continue the brand as it is, you might see that. But any kind of situation where you're going to have a roll up or some sort of other integration into a larger company, as soon as they have the keys,
they're going to do what they have to do. I mean, they bought that thing to make it more profitable.
Right,
and
the math doesn't work. They're buying your company because it's not quite perfect, and the model only works by improving what you've been doing, and the only way to do that is dramatically change what you're doing. One of the biggest issues that owners have is the owner's trap. They get in their own way, so they intentionally make themselves the center of everything. They're the only one that can sell. They're the only one that can design. They're the only one that can implement, and they do it on purpose because they think that they've got some super secret special skill.
On purpose, but sort of subconsciously, right?
Sure.
I mean, it's just sort of a part of ego or something,
right?
That leads you to do that.
Yeah. No one else can do it as well as I can. Is kind of the mentality, and the issue is that if
this is important,
if no one else can do it as well as you can, then the value of your company is zero because nobody's going to buy it.
Right, it's just you.
Yeah, there's all this stuff, all this valuation stuff, right? Like the math behind valuation gets super complicated, but the reality is very simple. Your company is worth exactly what somebody else will pay for it.
Yep,
it's that simple. So so owners they'll make themselves the center of everything, and so they're not extractable from the company. So that they get mad about the fact that they have to become a manager and they're not doing the work that they love anymore. But that step out into management and step out into leadership is essential if selling the company is part of your journey. Not every company is going to sell, not every owner wants to sell, but if you do want to sell, there's very specific things that you have to do. And that's one of the first things is get out of your own way. Hire people that are smarter than you, hire people that can do the work better than you, that want to be employees, that don't have aspirations to be owners.
And not everybody does want to be an
Yeah.
owner. And I understand why, because it's difficult.
It is, It's very challenging.
And it's not a guarantee.
Right.
You know, people look at it and they're like, oh, well, you had a successful, buyout of your company. That's great. You did great. But like it took a lot of work to get there and a lot of risk and a lot of time, right?
But the thing is that I think part of what the need becomes is that you're doing all that hard work anyway, but you may not be doing the work that gives you the valuation you probably deserve for that company, right? And so what I think people don't recognize, and you fill in the blanks, right? Because I know we're going to tee up what you're doing now, that people think that they've worked so hard, but then they haven't got the valuation because they don't really understand what it is they have to have. So as opposed to it being about them, they have to have systems in place that actually replicate what they have. So those
I'm
systems,
trying to learn, honestly. I'm trying to soak this stuff in because at nearly 50 years old, like I'm trying to figure out where exactly my entrepreneurial journey leads.
Right. Yeah, and for many, it's just you lead the career that you want, and then you decide to retire and close up shop, and that's fine. For many, it's they sell the company and they get a big windfall. But part of it is you have to decide years in advance which route you want to go. Whether you're going to pass it on to your kid, whether you're going to sell it to somebody else, whether you're just going to shut it down. These are all completely valid approaches to how you're going to handle it.
Right. There is no right or wrong.
Right.
Yep.
this is what you're doing now, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
tell us how this now. Then, so you came from Paradise as a deckhand.
Yep. I
into this corporate position, and then you decided.
leaving?
Had a brief stint as the director of corporate development, and then along the way, the new CEO said, you know what, I don't think I want to be doing. They hired a new CEO. He said, I don't think I want to be doing any more acquisitions. I think I want to focus on integrating the acquisitions we've already done, and so it was time for me to move on.
Yep.
Took on another role that we'll skip past that and. To the point where I was at a conference and I was talking to a really nice guy who owns an IT company. And I said, what's your plan? He said, well, I'm going to sell my company and I know I can get 10x. So it'll be fine. My $15 million will be fine for my family.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, okay, hold on. This 10x thing that's out in the world drives me nuts because There have been transactions that have happened in the last couple of years where there's been a 10 times valuation on earnings. But it's not the norm by any stroke of the imagination. But everybody that is talking about 10x. But the other thing was
Isn't it usually like 2 or 3x?
The average is like 2.7 to 3, something like that. And it depends on the industry and the space and whatnot. But yeah,
But I mean, isn't that sort of right? Like that seems reasonable.
That seems reasonable. Yeah, yeah. And then that's it's 3 is is
10 is
fine.
10's a lot.
It's exceptional. Yeah, like
I mean, I know that number's out there, and I know people think that, and sometimes I guess in my mind I think it's people who, the same sort of people who start a company with somebody else's money, right? And that, okay, I'm gonna get 10x for this thing. That just would seem astronomical to me, with a product or even a service.
Right. Well, and I think then there's also a conflation of issues here too, right? Where it's like doing 10x growth, that kind of thing of like just doing like really aggressive sales efforts and that kind of stuff, and increasing sales by 10x. That's something that more companies are capable of doing. But 10x sales growth does not result in 10x value growth.
Right.
Because the infrastructure required to support 10x sales is going to decrease the profitability of the organization in most cases. And so while you'll see, some linear growth in the bottom line, it's not exponential.
Yeah.
So you're doing this now, right? You're helping people get their companies to, what's the name of your company?
So there's sort of 2 things that are happening right now. So I started another company called TEHL Advisors, TEHL, and TEHL stands for the Eagle Has Landed, because I'm a big nerd, and because starting a company and growing it to the point where you sell it is kind of like a moonshot. There's so many aspects of the analogy that I won't bore you with, but that was a company that I started a little over a year ago now. And that's focused on coaching business owners on their personal readiness to exit the business. So focusing on, are you as a human being ready for this change? And if so, is your company ready for this change? And if so, is the value expectation and the financial need that you have for the future, do these all line up?
Yeah.
And so working on that kind of stuff and doing that through one-on-one coaching, doing some online classes. I'm working on some other educational aspects of it, where I just want to kind of get in front of owners to help dispel some of these myths that they've got locked in their head. The 10x kind of myth.
Yep.
All that then leads though to you get somebody ready to go. Now what happens next? And so my original plan when I had started this kind of coaching business was that I was going to refer out to brokers, and that would be a way for me to get a little bit of income from there and kind of hand that off. But as that panned out, it became very apparent to me that I should just do that work myself.
Okay.
So so
you became a broker.
So I became, yeah. Intermediary is the term, and this is it's weird because there's a broker's license and there's a salesperson's license, and I currently hold the salesperson's license.
Okay.
It's eventually going to be the broker's license, but a business intermediary. So I just signed up with VR Mergers and Acquisitions Twin Cities. VR stands for Valued Representation, and it's kind of the ethos behind it, where it's like this is not just putting a poster on a wall and saying this company is for sale, but to really be your representative, to go out to bat and find you the right buyer and find you the right results in where you want to be. So
all right, well, let's kind of get down to the brass tacks, right? Yeah. So like I have a couple of companies I've started in the last couple of years. I may want to sell them. When should I start thinking about that?
You should start thinking about it at least 3 years in front of when
3 years. Okay.
Yeah. And at that point, you need to make sure that you have really good, clean financials. I always tell people that.
And what does that mean?
I think the easiest way to think about it is to pay for it, to get reviewed financial statements from your CPA. Right. In order to do that, you're going to have to be handing over a good, bookkeeping records and that kind of stuff. You got to get away from the shoebox of receipts kind of approach and really get organized on the financial side, because that's going to be the first thing
for you.
I do. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm very.
It's going to be the first thing that they look at.
I have. Shout out to Christina Bauer.
Yeah.
I have one of the best controllers ever.
Good.
We have, and she does not let me keep my receipts in a shoebox.
Yeah.
And I love her for it, and it has made me diligent to tracking and understanding, and where we can deduct and where we can't and all that.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that's one of the things that I think is not built into new entrepreneurs enough. Like, be financially, you don't have to be a financial wizard,
Right.
but be financially savvy enough
Right.
that you know enough about what is important to track and
Right.
what is important to understand.
And buy it. Buy it from somebody who went to
Buy
school
it.
for this, right?
Yes.
Like that's what I always tell people. Stop doing your own bookkeeping. Stop having your assistant or receptionist or wherever doing bookkeeping. Hire an accountant to do it. There are
Exactly.
plenty of people that know how to do it, and it's gonna save so many headaches down the road. Because that's going to be one of the things is that no matter how you put stuff together, when you do have a buyer and they're going to go into due diligence, they are going to look at every single transaction and every single penny. And so the cleaner that is, the better organized that is, the more that makes sense, the easier the process is going to be. And deals do change when buyers look into financials and they don't support the growth numbers or the projections or things like that. Prices do go down, deals do get canceled because you didn't present a truthful or accurate representation of the company.
So continue to have, 3 years before you think you might want to sell.
Yeah, because the buyer's going to want to see 3 years of at least stable performance. Ideally, they're going to want to see growth.
And what growth are they looking for? 10, 20%?
That varies from industry to industry.
Okay.
And
Sure, that makes sense. That would vary.
And then what else? What else are they looking at? I'm really curious about this because I think back in the day, it was more important that you had your financials in order and probably your systems documented, right?
Yeah, so that's the next one. You make sure the systems are documented and that there are multiple people in place, that there's redundancy behind each of the systems so that if somebody does leave in a transaction, that it's not the end of the world. There can't be a
So you
single point of
have,
failure.
and basically that's what used to be called, we call it systems now, but it used to be, what are they called? Where you're documenting your process.
Systematization is the word I've heard. I don't think that's a real word though. I don't think systematization is a real word.
It's SOPs.
Oh, standard operating procedures.
Standard operating procedures.
Yeah.
Now, we still say that to a certain extent, but it's mostly about systems.
Right.
Because standard operating procedures is take
Part of the
out the
system.
microphone, plug it in, and it's not more, systems are more about here is what you need to learn in this stage, right?
And then make sure that you have, the systems, and the SOPs documented, but then also the training processes by which you communicate that with staff as they come in to be documented. A buyer's going to want to be able to learn how things work.
How do you sell?
Yeah.
What's the selling stages?
Right.
How many companies do you have in that? What do you do from this stage to that stage?
Right.
Okay, so that's systems, right? Okay, what else?
I think one of the mistakes that a lot of owners make is that they try to go sell right after their best year ever.
Sure.
What you want to do, you're trying to sell your best year ever. So what you want to do is make sure that you're doing the research, the documentation, and showing that you have sales performance that is in this direction, it's moving up, and that you have all these other unrealized opportunities, whether it's geographic markets or new product launches or whatever it is, that are available to the buyer, because they're, to Sam's point, their calculation is based off of earnings. They're buying cash flow. They're not buying you. They're actually not buying the processes and that kind of stuff. They're probably going to change.
They're gonna have their own.
They just want to know that they're there, and they want to know that this thing is going to be stable during this sort of transition period. So, being able to demonstrate that, we've had good performance, but next year, 2025, 2026, 2027 are likely to be the best year ever, and that's going to be your year. That you're going to be able to realize that because I'm going to get out of the way.
Right. Okay, I see. So the trajectory is. Now, I have a question, obviously.
Good.
Let's spit it out, girl. One of the things that I have noticed about PE firms that are, or anyone really who's buying a company, or whether they're represented by a broker or a PE firm is looking at them, is that they're buying companies. Sure, they have the numbers in order. Sure, they have some systems in order. But one of the things I'm seeing them do is buying companies that are successful in spite of themselves. So that might be they don't have a CRM, they don't have an ERP system, they don't have really technical maturity if they're an e-commerce place, or they haven't fully integrated into some of the other areas. Is that true, or is it better as a company? Like, sure, a SaaS company has to make sure that they have been continuously improving and changing their tech stack for whatever that is. But if it's like, say, a manufacturing company or a consumer product company, how important is it to have all your ducks in a row technically?
It's not, and in many cases,
That's what I figured.
In many
yeah.
cases, it's better to have
Not.
some room for improvement, because buyers are looking for low-hanging fruit. They're looking for immediate improvements that they can make. So, if you invested hundreds of thousands, invested $250,000 in an ERP system, and you got everything all completely organized and everything's functioning perfectly, that might actually be a deterrent for a buyer in certain cases, because they're just going to replace it anyway.
Exactly.
Right. Right. So they're
That's
looking
what I
at
was
you
thinking.
saying, here's the
That's why I
untapped
say
potential.
They,
Right.
like they need to see that they can improve something. And the easiest, the lowest hanging fruit, you don't want your numbers to be variable. You don't want that not to have paid attention to. You want the systems in place. But the thing that they are looking is like, I'll buy your company, and if I just invest in maybe a tech leader or some different infrastructure or e-commerce platform or whatever it is, then I'll be able to double the improvement.
Right.
And because they think that they can do that better.
Right.
Yeah.
They want to professionalize the company. And,
Yeah.
and they're looking for quick, inexpensive opportunities to see.
I love this message. I think this message is super important. I know, right? I
No,
get
no, it's
excited. Because we think we have to have everything in order. And I think you have said, what I heard you say is that your numbers and your systems, those two things are the things that mainly need to be in order.
They need to be in
What
order.
else?
And then like we talked about earlier, the owner has to be severable. They have to be removable
Right.
from the company, and they have
Sure.
to be removable in most cases quickly. There's certain transactions where they want the owner to stick around for substantially longer lengths of time. Particularly in things that involve design or intellectual property that's
Right.
it's
Creative
Right.
things. Yep.
Right.
But at the same time, it's like you have to think about this personally, and this is what I try to help people with. People understand. It's like, what do you want to do? Because if you want to drive to Key West and go play around with sailboats,
Yeah.
that's not conducive with sticking behind and helping the company out. And I think the other thing that I try to help people with is this is a very emotional thing. There's going to be some
Leaving a
strong
company
feelings
that you
Yeah.
built.
built. Yeah.
It's
No
your
doubt.
baby.
Yeah,
No doubt.
You got to kind of steel yourself up for that. And you just like any time there's loss in your life, like you have to feel it and accept it and move through it. But be prepared for that. And
Yep.
it's just a reality, because this has been a significant part of your life for many owners. Many owners have only had one company, and they've been doing it for 20 or 30 years. It's all they know, and it's all that they have. And so they get to the finish line.
Their identity is tied up
Right.
in it entirely.
And then it just
It's all other people know of
that
them.
founder syndrome too, right? So it's like I know what made me successful. I know what made this company successful. I know that. You probably felt that way, right? I know that. And then someone else takes it over and they do everything different than that, and
Right.
they've asked you to stay on to help them. And it's like, oh, how am I helping you now? Because you're doing everything the opposite of what I'm
Yep.
saying. Yeah. And is it better to have someone in your company that you have really kind of turned over the operations to, because they don't have that same thing, right? They maybe are new, or they've risen up through the ranks, but they're not the founder.
They're not as
Yeah.
emotionally attached.
I think that's critical. And I think, again, we were talking about earlier, not everybody wants to be an owner. So finding that key employee who really just loves the company, they love the job, they love the work, and getting them to have as much responsibility as you can is important. But then still having some redundancies in the systems and the people and everything to make sure that there's no one single point of failure. But yeah, offloading that as much as possible. And that's one of the things I always talk to people about is, can you take a 1-month vacation without your laptop?
Right.
It's a really good test. Because you should, if you are really severable from your company, then you should be able to disappear for a month and come back and everything is just fine, maybe even better than when you left it.
I have a ways to go in all my companies.
It's
for
hard.
that.
It's hard, and we
Yeah.
were talking about this, earlier. I have been on the beach with the laptop. I remember I had to set up rules with the first time I did that. I remember sitting at the beach or the pool with a laptop because I didn't set any boundaries with my team. Second time I went and did that, I had to say I will be available between
this period.
10 a.m. and noon Central Time. And other than that, you will not be able to reach me. And eventually kind of got to that point. In all fairness, I don't know that I ever achieved that in my own business, but it's a really good test for yourself. Is if you can do that, if you can do 4 weeks or 8 weeks or 12 weeks, you're in pretty good shape.
Yep.
If you can't,
Well, and
do
even
1
to
week-
know that that's a benchmark that you might need to set
Yeah.
is a step in the right direction, right? Because if you never hear that or you never think of that, you're not going to work toward making that a goal.
Right.
So,
and I think owners spend so much time trying to figure what are the right KPIs for my industry. What are the right numbers I need to be putting out? What ratios do I need to be tracking? What's the growth number that's the expectation and all that kind of stuff? And they focus on all that, but they don't spend any time thinking about themselves and what their goals are. Why did you start the company in the first place? What were you trying to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish with your life now? And is the sale of your company, facilitating that? Is it a tool towards achieving a new goal? Are you doing it under duress? This is what happens to so many people. There's a health circumstance. There's a collapse of a partnership. There's economic downturn. Things like that. So many companies will either sell in kind of fire sales or just simply go under because some sort of unexpected event happens. And so it's really important as the owner to think about, okay, well, what is this company for me? What is this tool for me to accomplish next? How do I do that next? What's next?
Right.
And that makes this transition period a lot easier when you say, okay, I know that the next thing I'm doing is I'm going to go sail the world.
Right.
And so the sale of this company is not the loss of my life's work, but it is the launching pad for me to move into this next phase. That was this
fulfillment
phase.
of a goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Super impressive to understand this. I think,
Yeah.
because I think people do think they go
It's
into.
like forcing me to think about it in real
Well, I mean,
time.
it forces any entrepreneur to think about it in the sense that, okay, so you're doing it, maybe you're doing it because you love it.
Right.
Right? And surprise, it pays the bills. And then you're thinking, once it starts paying the bills, well, what can I sell this for?
Right.
And then what does that mean to me? And what do I want to do? It's a bit like a good wealth advisor would do. Like, what is it your ultimate goal is? Right?
Well,
Right?
and to that end, for many entrepreneurs, their company is their single most valuable asset. It's undiversified, single most valuable asset. And for many owners, that is their retirement plan. And they're like, well, I know I can sell my company for $15 million and that'll be fine. Without the understanding that the company's not worth anywhere near $15 million.
Right.
And you're going to lose 40% of it to taxes and advisors and all that kind of stuff along the way.
Yep.
And so, if your retirement plan is just this one illiquid asset, that's a problem.
Right.
And you need to start thinking about it in advance, and start planning for how you're going to handle that, and have a realistic understanding of what it's really going to be, because that's the other thing that I see so frequently is that owners, the value they expect for their company is imaginary. They just pluck it from the air. It's either what they want it to be or think they need it to be, or they heard that Fred down the street sold their business for this much or whatever.
Why is that? It's probably because the idea of getting a valuation, that's expensive, right? Is there a less expensive option?
Sure. I mean, there's plenty of people, and I have tools that I'll use that will give kind of an estimate of value.
A rough idea.
That'll give you a range based off of previous transactions in the field, and it'll give you kind of an idea of what's realistic. It's really not always helpful to go get a formal valuation for purposes other than buy-sell agreements or buyouts or things like that is when that kind of makes sense. But as you're looking at planning for the future, an estimate's going to be good enough.
I would think
it's
so.
like
Yeah.
comps on your house or
Yeah.
something,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
you're just looking for something comparable.
Right.
Yeah.
Just have an idea, because at the end of the day, your company is worth what somebody else will pay for it. So
Yeah.
all that work doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Until somebody wants to buy the company.
Yeah.
So.
And really, when you think about like even disruptions, which it seems like we have a lot more as of late than anything in the economy, you know, like
Doesn't it
how
seem like it?
yeah, because it's like even like look at Zoom, right? Zoom is this like little like company. I guess they weren't that little, but they were kind of little, and then COVID made
Yeah.
them huge.
Right.
Yeah.
And who would have predicted that?
Right.
Nobody, right?
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't super popular initially because people prefer to sit in the same room.
Right.
Yeah.
Most people do.
Well, and also people were old school in companies. They didn't think they could run
Skype
without.
was around forever before that.
Yeah.
Right? Look, we all knew we could do video.
Right.
But who knew
This
that?
is so fascinating.
Yeah.
How do you get clients?
Again, you know, kind of the same as before. It's the slog. It's
Yeah, you just get to know people in the
go meet
network.
people, network, ask for referrals, make phone calls. Just it's standard business.
Go on
development.
podcasts.
Go on podcasts.
Go on podcasts.
That
Oh, what a
helps.
good idea.
Yep.
What about that idea?
Yep.
Okay.
Start one.
Are
Those
we
I
deep
mean,
into, are we 30 minutes in already?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay, all right.
we're
Well,
45 minutes into the
Oh
segment.
wow.
okay, so we always end the show
Yeah.
with a big idea. Did you bring one?
I don't know how big it is, but I think, you know, a lot of what I've been trying to focus on is really trying to find ways to educate owners that are really busy and don't have time to be thinking about all the things that we were just talking about. So kind of the idea that I've been noodling on is kind of like an inverse incubator. Where you're getting people together not to grow their companies and blow them up to size, but to get them together and
It's like an outcubator.
out.
Get it?
Incubator,
outcubator.
Yeah.
Nice.
Let's call it that.
Coined it.
You can get all kinds of people from different industries and different backgrounds that are thinking about what happens next and sort of have them team up and combine resources.
I love that
and ready to
idea.
go.
Yeah.
I really love that idea. Do you think AI is going to have an impact on your field?
Sure. I mean, it's very helpful in terms of analysis of companies and
Is
that
it?
kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It can do things a lot faster, but at the same time, I think adoption will be slow because, you know, private equity firms and these other groups, they have the models they built and they have the analysts that they trust and they with the dollar amounts that they're spending, they still
wanna
want
go
a
with the
human
old.
being to
Right.
run through it.
Yeah.
So
So my big idea.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it.
this is a twofer.
Well, we're all supposed
I
to
always
share. I
have
don't
one
have
like
today.
I always have one like you know, the transporter from Star Trek. That was
Great idea.
I feel like
let me know when it's ready. I'll
we
be your
should
first
do
customer.
that. And then but
Yeah.
then I think about the Fly movie when the fly got in there and then he turned into
Yeah,
a
Jeff
partial
Goldblum.
fly.
Yeah.
Yes, that was a creepy movie. Anyway.
Was.
But there have been, I've read some articles as of late about the trajectory of AI. Like, you know, because it's hard, it will be an exponential thing. So it's at a certain point.
Yeah.
At a certain point, we really can't imagine what that means because it's a building technology.
Yeah.
And so, you know, utopians would say, we will never have to work again.
Right.
Right? Utopians are going to say AI is going to take care of everything.
Right.
And we won't have to work again.
Won't
we
that
will
be-
just be here to love and create peace and harmony.
Oh.
It's beautiful, beautiful future.
Isn't that a beautiful
Yeah.
thought? And then the other side of it is that it's going to destroy our lives and that it will take over, like the Matrix, right?
Well, that's the singularity. That's kind of the big
Singularity.
Yeah.
Ray Kurzweil. I know.
Yeah.
Our pathway to singularity.
I mean, we should probably wrap up the show, but what do you think? Which one, if you had to put money on it?
Well,
Just curious.
my big idea, my thought there, I guess it's not really a big idea, but my thought there is that it's going to be completely somewhere in the middle of that, right? It's not going to be pure evil or pure utopia.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same as any other technology, and it's how we use it, right? How we use it. Will we use it to better lives first. I don't know. Does that make profit? Probably not.
But when nuclear power was developed, right? What was the first use of it? Was it to create a nuclear power plant? I'm not sure.
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No.
I think it was to destroy life. So not that
Did you see Oppenheimer?
I have not seen Oppenheimer. I think most rapid technological advancements or periods of time in human history where these happen, we fuck up first. We do the wrong thing first, and then we sort of have to learn that lesson, and then we start doing the right thing with it a little bit. You know, I don't know. That's my take on it.
We will see.
Gloomy.
I'm leaning
Sorry.
toward the utopia.
I like it.
Okay, all right.
I like it.
May
I like Utopia too.
James, thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
This was a great show, and I think it's one of the shows that is. I love the way you stepped through your career, because all that storytelling really helps people see, and then to
Right.
end with, I'm giving back by helping people be able to do their valuation and really understand what that means. And I know our
I think you gave some really solid advice.
Yeah,
toward the end there,
absolutely.
especially, yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Okay, now the sun will come out tomorrow. Well,
Will
for
it?
some of us.
It will. Gloomy. All right, James. Thank
Thanks,
you so
James.
much.
You guys.
Yeah.
Don't cry. It's over.
Oh, you did it. You made it to the very end of the show. You know what you can do to help us? What can they do to help us? They can tell their friends how awesome this show is.
Yeah, why not? Why not?
You know what else? And I don't know if people know this or don't know this, but like if you found us and you see us on socials somewhere, just hit repost or share it with your community.
Share, repost, follow. Isn't there a follow option?
Yeah,
of some
follow,
kind?
subscribe. We're not going to charge you anything.
No.
Just hit the subscribe button.
No,
It's
we
not gonna
just
hurt
need
you.
to create a community around entrepreneurism and how the real shit happens.
I like it. Well, because we're real. You said it in the intro.
Real.
We talk real. No, seriously, tell your friends. What a great show. Oh my gosh, these people are doing the best work ever. Yeah, right?
That's what you should say.
Yeah.
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 And just come back. Have fun with us. We love this.
We'll have someone, we'll interview someone cool next week too.
Someone completely different.
Yeah, from prison. Thanks.
We always have to add that.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening.